Early religions. Babylon. Blood. The chosen people of the sun. Through fear and guilt, the rulers of Babylon manipulated their subjects to worship the one true God, who had an insatiable appetite for bloody sacrifice. Later on in Egypt, the Hebrew people who were Egyptians were fabricated to assume the role of the chosen people and were used and abused, as they used and abused other nations, to establish this chosen people propaganda. The predecessors of ancient Babylon, Egypt, and the Israelite nation was the Kabbalistic knowledge of the elite Kabbal mindset, which knew firsthand how to manipulate matter, one molecule at a time. The paradise state had never experienced the illusion, disconnecting them from the all-knowing state of wisdom. This elite mindset knew this, and being not at all concerned with the matter of lying, conjured forth the systems needed to perpetuate this deception. The magicians who received this knowledge and appeared as wise men would eventually, many centuries later, become known as the Hebrews. These Hebrews were the Egyptians of centuries past and ultimately became known as the Israelites. These future Israelites formed a portion of humanity who would be used and manipulated and abused beyond belief by their leader rulers. In turn, the Hebrew nation was used to shed blood and destruction, all in the name of God. Being that the masses of humanity have been imprisoned in a total hypnotic trance state, they would still continue to worship the God of the Jews in spite of this massive bloodletting. Even today, many Jewish people still practice Kabbalism as part of their faith. However, it's not only in Judaism that one sees the Kabbalistic principles applied. Kabbalism is sun god or light worship. Christianity is also Kabbalism, as is Islam and every form of religion in the world, including atheism. Different names, rituals, and holy days have been applied, but the worship of a supreme being, the light, is the ultimate dogma. That supreme being is the light-bringer, Luciferian egregore, the conjuring group creator, who in turn are the Kabbalistic group of thinking entities. Archaeologists experts have found no evidence of Hebrew Jews ever living as slaves in Egypt or of their exodus out of Egypt. The Old Testament carefully covered links between the Pharaoh's characters and the Bible characters. They mixed historical facts with myths and legends. The Abraham character was based on Amenemhet, the Egyptian pharaoh. The Hebrews were not a race of people as once thought. They were a symmetric and Asiatic class of foreign workers who migrated into Egypt from neighboring lands to find work as craftsmen and builders. As their population exceeded over hundreds of years, they contributed to Egyptian technology, worship Egyptian gods, and intermarry into Egyptian nobility. They worshipped Egyptian gods and violated Hebrew laws to keep the secret even from their fellow Hebrews. They secretly ruled Egypt. So, why did the Hebrew authors of the Bible mix facts with fairy tale myths in the Bible? So they can hide the fact that the ancient Egyptians and Hebrews shared the same royal bloodlines. The Egyptian people forced the Hebrew Hyksos kings out of Egypt. The only way the Hebrews could still rule Egypt was to hide their Hebrew identity from the Egyptian people by changing their names to Egyptian names and intermarrying into royalty. By marrying into these Egyptian bloodlines, they gained the Kabbalistic knowledge. The descendants of these Hebrew bloodlines through the millennium have left oceans of blood through wars, sacrifice, murder, and their trademark of lying, cheating, and stealing. They have colonized and enslaved the world till this very day, as we will see later. Here, we see a modern CEO receiving the silver papal olive branch as a sign of success and professional matriculation. The olive does not, however, represent peace. It is a Judaic symbol representing the Davids or Atonists, the original pharaonic Judites. Even the Pope is a Judite, even though he belongs to the Roman Catholic religion, whilst the Queen of England is also a Judite, even though she belongs to the Protestant religion. The Opposames know just how the game is played. Remember, these bloodlines have many masks. They wear the masks of Jews, Islamic, and many other masks to fill their agenda. They control Zionism, the Vatican, and everything you could possibly think of. They own it or manipulate it in some way or another. Are you still wondering who controls the US and the world to this very day? Check the eagle on the American $1 note. Notice the 13 olive leaves and 13 red berries. Before Akhenaten's time, the word Levi referred to the Irish letter L or Lewis, which corresponded with the rowan tree. The hand of Akhenaten holding an olive sprig with leaves and berries. His Atonists have dutifully continued to employ the few symbols he favored, such as the sun, beams of light, lion, and olive branch, etc. The emblem for the tribe of Judah displays olive leaves and berries. The lion signifies the Judites, Atonists. The emblem of the United Nations bears an uncanny resemblance to that of the tribe of Judah. Each sprig of olive or laurel contains 13 leaves. Oak leaves, acorns, and olive sprigs can be found on military regalia the world over. The Rothschild coat of arms. The arrows and eagle appear on the American $1 note, while the lion, representing British oligarchic control and symbolizing the Judites, Levites, or Atonists, appears on innumerable national flags and royal coats of arms. Symbolism explains the mysteries that historians and experts just can't seem to fathom. Initiated artists such as Leonardo da Vinci, Sandro Botticelli, and Nicolas Poussin incorporated Kabbalistic, Hermetic leitmotifs in their canvases. In Poussin's painting, entitled Grapes from the Promised Land, we see the ladder and tree. Millions of people view paintings of this kind unaware of the secret information incorporated into the designs. Stairway to Heaven. There's a lot more information here than meets the eye. Freemasonry, the oldest secret society in the world, has its roots in the Old World over 6,000 years BC. Ancient Freemasonry signs and symbols were incorporated and recognized by everyone worldwide. When they greeted each other, they would acknowledge the greeting through signs and handshakes. High-level insiders know quite well there is no significant difference between Judaism and Masonry. Masonic aprons with olive and laurel sprigs. The Merovingians who established the Vatican, Cistercian Order, and Knights Templar date back to the so-called Dragon Court or Brotherhood of the Snake that had its headquarters in Egypt, but which originated in pre-Diluvian times. As the centuries slid by, Kabbalism was employed by many other groups. Eventually it was passed into the hands of the Christian Roman Catholic Church and the Society of Jesuits. The remaining books of the Old Testament are actually books of alchemy or ancient chemistry, further veiled in allegories. The very famous Song of Solomon is actually the alchemical process. The books of the New Testament, except for the book of Revelations, which was a call for the downfall of the Roman Empire written around 170 AD, are books of astrology and astronomy and stellar movements also hidden in allegory. If one joins an organization such as the Freemasons and goes high enough up the chain, he or she will learn how to read the allegories and see what information the ancients were hiding in those allegories, and also see how accurate that information is compared alongside modern-day chemistry and astronomy. Alchemy comes in two primary flavors that address the two primary cosmos we inhabit, the microcosms and the macrocosms, dealing with the two realms we perceive. Exoteric realm is where the alchemist would attempt to turn lead into gold. Esoteric realm is more about turning spiritual lead into spiritual gold. The Knights Templar, or the Christian Crusaders, also laid claim to this knowledge around 1000 AD. When the Templar Knight found the translations and actual meanings hidden within the Bible, buried in the ruins of the Temple of Solomon, they blackmailed the Roman Christian Church with that information and became quite rich and powerful. One of the other Kabbalah secrets is that matter can be transferred molecule by incantation and thought, and that the structure of reality is really a holographic illusion. The Baphomet goat head was used by the Knights Templar. Over 7 centuries later, the legends of the Templars and the mystery of Baphomet is alive more than ever before. Hundreds of secret societies and religious orders claim descent from the Knights Templar in some form or another. Almost all Hermetic groups claim to be perpetuating the Templar tradition. Eliphas Levi's main thesis was that all forms of occultism and mysticism held a common secret doctrine. Ritual magic, he said, utilized the existence of what he called the astral light, defined as a natural and divine agent, at once corporeal and spiritual, a universal plastic mediator, a common receptacle for vibrations of movement and images of form, a fluid and a force which may be called, in a sense at least, the imagination of nature. It was this agent which reflected the magician's will expressed during a ritual and actualized it into existence. He illustrated this concept with a hieroglyphic form, which he called a Baphomet, claiming this was the spiritual principle secretly revered by the Templars. Levi used this picture as the frontispiece for a number of his books. Levi's image of Baphomet is virtually synonymous in the common mind of the uninitiated with the image of Satan enthroned in hell. That's only because the most modern depictions of the devil are based on the card of the same name in the popular Rider-Waite tarot deck, and this card is itself based on Levi's depiction of Baphomet. Levi repeatedly stated that Baphomet was not the same as the devil, however. Rather, it was a symbol of a transcendental power beyond good and evil, man and beast. The Baphomet goat head represents wisdom through thought. Most Gnostics, the Ophites, believed that the physical universe was a prison created by a demon named Ialdabaoth. Both comes from Bythos or Bihat and means chaos or the deep. It is connected to our modern words like bath and baptize. Chaos was called the abyss or the primeval waters, and was analogous to the first matter that the alchemists believed creation came from the king of the jinn or demons, who is worshipped as the true God, by the Yazidi sect in Iraq till this very day. The word Azazel is reminiscent of the word Azoth. This was a personification of the alchemical Al-Kahest, also called the universal agent, the philosopher's stone, the quintessence or the fifth element. This was the original substance from which they said the whole universe was formed. The alchemists believed that it was to be found within the prima materia or first matter. It was believed that this substance could be used to transform any one thing into another. The Knights Templar invented the banking and checking system in the late Middle Ages. Instead of trading with gold and silver coins, they mainly traded in coded chits, paper that represented a promise to pay and the right for the recipient to collect their payment in gold or silver coin at the bank branch of their choice. Later, this developed into fractional reserve lending. The Jewish-Christian connection then enjoyed the creation of Islam in the early 7th century AD. This brought together the three major players, collectively known as the children of Abraham, or the children of human sacrifice, who form approximately half of the world's population. The worship of Amen-Ra was hidden within royal power circles and secret societies to this very day. Christians and Muslims unknowingly end their praise in Amen, which is Amen-Ra, sun worshipping. When you read the words holy prophets, know that this refers to whole prophets, monetary profits. This is simply more reference to the muddy tree. This is how the Luciferian egregore group thinks. Sound and shape association is everything. These genetics were passed along from generation to generation. If this interbreeding remains constant, so it is with the Luciferian-minded thinkers. They have this Kabbalism knowledge of how to control energy and how to manipulate light. In other words, they know how to manifest deceit, the art of lying and deception, sexual deprivation, mind control of the masses through religion, political and intellectual institutions, subliminal programming of sigils, language, and the number system, how to manipulate matter one molecule at a time, hiding mathematical equations in architectures and art like anti-gravity, how to keep the population in a constant state of panic and terror, the secrets from ancient mystery schools, coded messages, divide and rule, magic, alchemy, incantations, and the control of thought from entities and much other occult knowledge which is used to this very day. Israel has no historic claim on her mythical Davidic kingdom, and the cold, hard science of archaeology proves it. Gospel. Go spell means go spell. In other words, go, put the word in the spell, or the trance state through religion and science, the rebirth of thinking. How well we know what a profitable superstition this fable of Christ has been for us. A quote from Pope Leo X, 1513 to 1529, the truth of the liars. Realize that it is the Luciferian master hypnotist just screwing with our minds, playing the good God and the wicked devil, and playing it very mercilessly. Solomon's temple was said to be built by demonic entities and was the temple for sexual orgies, satanic sacrifices of women, children, and animals, the worship of idols. The biblical Ark of the Covenant was stored inside Solomon's temple with 4 gold rings built into the 4 sides, representing the 4 corners of the globe, where the biblical Abraham disciples would rule.